come back a little early for this. Obviously, I'm still in the process of trying to build my squad. I've had a couple of problems with people saying that they'd be interested in joining me, but the league rules say that I can't offer them enough money. I've just noticed the transfer rules are really interesting. Teams can offer a maximum wage of £100 a week, but there's 160 per week minimum wage for full-time players 17 years and old and up. So that's very odd. Does that mean I can only sign free transfers? Or does that mean I can't sign anyone because you've got to have a maximum of 100 and a minimum of 160? Is that a bug? Does it mean I'm not going to be able to sign anyone? That really worries me. It's the same league we were in before, but I wonder if it explains a little bit about what happened last year, because it wasn't easy to get players in, and maybe that's why. Well, I guess you'll see in a moment when we get to the beginning of the season. We're a little way away still. At the moment, we're still in post-season for the previous season. You will see that there's now 2 fundraisers in place. Okay, I am going to be trying to do at least one more to raise a bit more cash, so that if we can sign players, which I'm hoping we will be able to, we'll have a bit of money to do that. I'll see you back at the start of the season, but I'll warn you now, it's maybe a slightly difficult pre-season if we can't really sign many players because of that strange rule. So here we are. It is now the first game of the season. The pre-season has been an interesting one. It's not been quite as difficult as I thought it might be to improve the squad. It's not as improved as I'd like it to be. It's more depth than anything else that we have improved. I don't think we've got a lot of players who are better than what we had before. We've got one or two. Cameron Jones, I think, is a slight improvement at right back. So that's something. And Greg O'Neill, again, I think probably a slight improvement at left back. It's nothing spectacular, but it is an improvement, I think. We've also got Lewis Buckley, who he's quite nicely well-rounded, as you might say. He's got lots of different attributes that are pretty good, but very few that are very good. The one thing I quite like is his natural fitness of 14, which should mean I don't need to take him off too often. One of the problems I've got with some of these players is that their fitness isn't great. He's not the best example, but generally speaking, their fitness isn't as good as it should be. And it means that I have to make a lot of substitutions, and I end up having to leave some players on that I might not want to leave on until full time. There's one example. Harry Berkhamshaw is probably going to be fitting into that today, although actually he's not really a first choice. Finley Hayhurst, who is another one, fitness of 6, will be, I think, my first choice there still this season. He was my best player last year, more or less. And although Berkhamshaw, my assistants like him more, Jay Matete has generally been the better of those 2 players. You can see he's pretty good. I don't know how much he'll improve because of his low determination stat, but I feel pretty good with Matete and Finley Hayhurst as my first choice in those positions this season. So this is the team I'm going to go for the first game. We have Ben Winterbottom in goal, Cameron Jones and Greg O'Neill at the fullbacks, with Wing Cleaver and Jack Walton, the same centre-back pairing as last year, and I'm happy with that. Jazz Casey, that's one piece of news that I have given you already, has joined the side and has therefore improved the team, I think, in terms of the long-term availability of it, which is fantastic. Walton also has signed a new contract, obviously, which is why he's still here, and the fullbacks, obviously, I've talked about before, so I'm just checking some notes. We've also improved our finances significantly. I managed to sort out quite a few competitions this year. It's been difficult to do in the past. We did have one last year, but it wasn't the best sides we could have had. Whereas we have, as you can see here, quite a lot of sort of fairly decent have-been Premier League teams in the not too distant past coming to play friendlies at our ground. For some reason they all seem to begin with B, as you'll notice. I'm not sure whether that's just a coincidence, but that obviously will improve the coffers. And as you can see, things have improved. It was starting to improve over the summer, and we're now in the black. I don't know how long it'll stay there. I was hoping it might be even better than that. I think I've worked out finally what this other figure is. I think this is the money that I give to the teams who I've invited to there, because obviously you have to pay them a certain amount to come. And the TV revenue plus the gate receipts from the pre-season has significantly over, we've got £50,000 or so more than we paid. So clearly it's worthwhile. Not as worthwhile as I perhaps thought originally. I thought it might be several hundred thousand that we'd be in the black by now. But they've certainly made a difference to our finances, and it has meant that we're not quite in the perilous position that we were in, and we can bring in a few players. As you can see, we're actually underneath the wage budget now, with time to kind of think about a few extra improvements to the squad as the season goes on. In terms of what I'd like to do with the squad from now on, I think the defence is looking okay at the moment. I mean, I'm not saying I couldn't improve it, but I think it's looking okay at the moment. I would quite like to get a better goalkeeper in. I think I'd still like to get another striker, because Buckley is okay and it's nice to have a bit of experience. I think he's the only player I've got who's over about 22 in this team. I've got a couple on the bench who are 23, 24, but basically, and that 24 is the highest age I have for someone who's actually in my squad. So clearly, having a little bit of experience might be quite a good thing, and that's partly why I decided to go for him instead of Barragan. There's not a huge amount to choose between the two of them in terms of the squad. They're slightly different kinds of players, but I would say sort of roughly on the same level. You've got Buckley, who's a bit better technically, Barragan is a bit quicker. It's very, very close, and as I say, the fact that Buckley has that experience, I just feel like that might be quite a useful thing to have in the side, which is so inexperienced in general. The form, as you can see, isn't great, but that's mainly because we've been playing against quite a lot of fairly big teams, and we actually got a couple of good results. We got that 0-0 draw against Barnsley, which is very impressive this time. We even managed to get a 1-1 with Birmingham, which really was quite a proud moment. And we only really got thrashed once, I think, no, twice. Barnsley 4-0 and Preston North End 5-0. So certainly held our own in fairly illustrious company during pre-season. So here we go. We're going to start off with our first game. It's against Burscough. I think it's Burscough. Obviously, Squires Gate have gone up, but all the other teams you should recognise more or less. I'm trying to remember who got promoted into this league this season. It's Camel and AFC Blackpool. Oh yeah, AFC Blackpool again. We have played them before in a previous league, so that's one team to certainly look out for. But other than that, we are going to be facing a lot of very, very similar sides. I'm hoping this will be the last season in this league. 2 seasons is more than enough, thank you. That said, we haven't improved the team as much as I perhaps would have hoped. I think, if I'm honest with you, I probably would have liked one really top-class centre-back, one top-class centre-forward, and probably one more top-class central midfielder as well. To have Jamie Tete as my first choice central midfielder is perhaps not as good as I would perhaps like, but it's certainly not a bad thing at all. So here we go. I'm going to submit the team and let's have our first game. So Victoria Park in Burscough, not sure how to pronounce that, sorry. And we're off. Nice long pitch here. It's going to make it a bit more difficult to play our normal tactics of trying to put the ball over their defence, but hopefully we can start creating some chances. That's worked straight away. Not quite from the back, but Akinola plays the ball over the top of the defence, and Max Guy gets his account underway for the season. Good finish that. Akinola to Guy. It's same as last season, I suppose. Really continuing that trend. Close to being offside there, but not. Oh no, and they've equalised. Right, so that's been pegged back very quickly there. It's a bit of a shame. Hopefully we can hold up. I'd like to just see us hold off for a bit. Don't necessarily need to score again straight away, but I just want to make sure we don't go behind, because we had a habit last season of losing a lead and then going behind quite quickly. So let's just try and hold on to it, perhaps till half time, and see whether we can push on from there. Jones trying to get rid of the ball. Tries to go over the top again, but this time Wynn is there to clear up, and Schwartz back to Porter. Schwartz again. Schwartz, the name of one of my all-time favourite Arsenal players when I was very, very young. Only I think my second season watching Arsenal. I'm an Arsenal fan for those who don't know. And Stefan Schwartz signed, and he's still one of my favourite players. There was something about him I just really liked. Only played with us this season, I think. So Ateti has the ball back to Casey. Casey's running through the fence, looking very good. Our player now, of course, hopefully might make a real difference this season. He was certainly a good player particularly in the first half of last season. He did fade a little bit, but I would think with an 18-year-old, he's got good determination. Hopefully, should still continue to improve. He's quite quick. His physicals are pretty good for this level, and hopefully he can really push on this season. Berkhamshaw has the ball out to Akinola. Akinola and Casey combining well there. I'm really excited to have those two. Got quite a few years, I think, with these two now. Hopefully really pushing on. Tete through to Guy. Is it a penalty? Yes, it is. Max Guy can step up and hopefully make it 2-1. He does. 2-1 to East Manchester, and Max Guy has got both of them. Really, really good start to the season from him. Hopefully this time we can hold on to the lead a little longer. Going at the break at least 2-1 up. Maybe more, who knows. Guy through again. He's got a hat-trick. A first half hat-trick. 35-minute hat-trick. In fact, it's less than that because he didn't score straight away. 35 minutes in, Max Guy has a hat-trick, and it's 3-1 away to Berska. That's really, really good. I'm so pleased with that. I'm just horribly remembering the fact that we were 3-0 up in my last league game and ended up drawing, which cost us the title, of course, but we're doing well here. In terms of how good a result this could be, Berska 18-1, we're 2-5. It was strange actually when I got the news report about us being the favourites, and it didn't suggest that we were. It was slightly odd. I think this might be too far back for it to I'm not going to look for this now, but I think we are favourites. But there's a slightly strange. There was one screen that suggested we were about 4-1 to win. But I mean, I think clearly we are amongst the favourites, if not the favourites, and Berska are nowhere near. So it's not a great result, but 3-1 on the first day of the season at half time is certainly no bad thing. Good start to the season. Having said that, we need to make sure that we don't get complacent after the end of last season. Max Guy not very happy, but that's fair enough, having scored a first half hat-trick. Usually, if you single out a player for praise at this point, everyone else gets upset, but he's got a hat-trick. So I'm going to have a go at doing something about that. I'm very happy with your performance, sorry. Got confused. Well, at least he's not demotivated anymore, I suppose. Don't know what more I could do with Max Guy there. I mean, it was fair. I think it was fair for me to say that they need to make sure that they concentrate. I mean, I would have thought players need to be clever enough to realise that I wasn't really talking to Guy there. He's got a hat-trick. He can do whatever he likes in the second half. He'd still be the man of the match. Goodness me. So the second half's underway. So 15 minutes into the second half, and not a huge amount has happened, which is good. I'm going to bring on Jimmy Pollard. I'm going to do something I don't do very often. I'm going to switch my formation around a little bit, because Pollard doesn't really do anything. He can't play in the central midfield, as you can see, but he can play in defensive midfield, and that is where I'm going to put him for now. Just give myself a little bit more cover for the defence now, because I don't want to fall into the same trap we fell into at the end of last season. Admittedly, we had to go for it, because if the other team had one, they didn't in the end, but if the other team had one, then we needed to win by 2 goals more than them. So there was a reason why I had to go for it in the back of the end of last season. And Buckley is offside. It's a shame. It'd be nice to have a goal on his debut, the lone man. Right, so I have decided to take off Akinola just because he's struggling a little bit, and it gives me a chance to see whether Jazz Casey could do a bit of a job on the left. He's obviously more right-sided, but if we can see that he is versatile enough, Josh Wicks is probably the best other winger I have. So it'd be nice to have that extra bit of versatility so that we can make sure that if Akinola was to get injured, then it could be Wicks to come in for him instead of a left-sided player. Casey swings in a free kick. Cleaver's there but can't get to it, and it looks like this will probably end 3-1 now. It's a good start to the season, certainly. Casey swings one last ball into Walton, and Holmes picks it up, and it is going to end 3-1. An away 3-1 win on the first day of the season. That certainly bodes well. And if I can pick up 1 or 2 more players into this team, I think this could be a pretty simple season in the end. Maybe a season where we can really romp home and not worry too much come the end of the season about trying to win games by lots and lots of goals, for example, like the last game last season. That did feel quite comprehensive to me. I know it's only 3-1, but I feel like we probably did have a couple more gears in us, and we probably could have scored more if we'd wanted to. So I'm really pleased with that performance. It's a really good start. In terms of the people that we are going to be up against, obviously at this level it does change quite a bit from season to season. City of Liverpool and Northwich Victoria are the 2 teams who are better than 2-1 odds. So they're, I suppose, going to be our starting points. City of Liverpool won 4-0 on their first game of the season. Northwich Victoria only managed 1. which is fine. But it looks like early riders are likely to come from those two along with us. So I think we will leave it there. My next game will be another cup game. I think we had our first ever last year when we lost to Wolverhampton Casuals, which was a real shame actually. We came close. We were 2-1 up at one point, but we just couldn't quite see it off. And it was partly, I think, to do with the fitness last season. That's not necessarily a problem I fixed yet. But for this game, we are quite big favourites. So I think there's a good chance that the next episode could see a first FA Cup win for East Manchester. Come back, please, tomorrow. I will be seeing you then, and we will see how it goes. Speak to you later. Bye.